This is sort of my first meeting, so it's an experiment. We'll see how I evolve my meetings as we go over time. But obviously you all know that I'm Brad, your new city council member for District 1. I've been coming to these meetings here at this location since probably Steve Aspel, Steve, Jeff, Martha, and Nils. I was on the school board for 8 years, so quite often I was coming to these meetings to offer school board perspective or answer questions or do things like that there. So do you all, do you need my introduction, my background? I can give you time on that, but I don't know if I need to. This isn't a campaign stop. I don't need to say, I'm a 38-year resident and I've done all this stuff. So I'm fine skipping that. I struggled over what order to do this in. Talk about my priorities, talk about the status. So I'm going to start with status. And that way, if people really want to get out quickly, they can hear the status of what's going on at the city. So the city has created an economic development working group because the biggest issue in our city is finances. And the way we fix that is we attract good businesses to the city, take the businesses we have, help them grow. We want to become a business-friendly city. And so we are creating that working group. Everybody on the council wanted to be on it, but only 2 of us could be. So it is Chadwick and Scott, along with the mayor and city staff. I don't know about the rest of the composition yet, and I'm not in that meeting, but they're going to report out to us. So even though it's very important to me that we have all the businesses going and do all that stuff, and I can't be on the committee. That's what happens. We have to share who gets on what committees. I don't know. I'll say we when I talk about the city or the council, have passed I think it's still in the 30-day time frame, but it's a anti-camping ordinance. The law's changed that allows cities to enforce anti-camping. It used to be that you couldn't do anything like that unless you had supportive housing, and then there's been a bunch of lawsuits. One of the court cases allowed the cities to do that. I believe Torrance did an anti-camping ordinance, and so did Redondo. The ordinance isn't too draconian. The idea is if you see somebody, say, at a bus stop, more than 4 hours apart within a 20-hour period, we had to make it 20, not 24, because you might see somebody waiting for the bus at 8 a.m. 2 days in a row, so that you can't do that. It's going to be assumed that person is probably living there, camping there. And that now gives the city the authority to do something about it that they weren't able to do there. Not that our bus stops are necessarily super attractive, but there are bus stops where people will hang out all day long. And there are other benches in other areas, places in the village, in particular by the library, Veterans Park, and Pier, which is District 2, but there's definitely a lot of places. And this will give them some ability to give those people assistance. On the homeless front, if you see a homeless person, you can call the police non-emergency line and say, hey, look, I see somebody there, perhaps they can get assistance. And they will get Lila Omora, who is our homeless navigator, out there. If you see somebody who's behaving erratically, making noise, and you feel uncomfortable, you can then—
not a council person.
No. You can then call 911. And that will get the police services to that person. There are times where Lila actually prefers a 911 call on a homeless person, because normally it's like, no, we want to be nice, we want to get her out there, but sometimes having that documenting of behavior issues allows them to escalate services a little bit. There's one guy in the Riviera Village who's behind my office quite often, and he refuses services, but they're trying to get him to the VA. So if they can, at the right time, have it work out, then they can do that. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, is that a 24/7? I just happened to, one of our neighbors, we're on Guadalupe, and she was doing her laundry late at night. She's a young gal, 11:30 at night, and she's up to his apartment, going downstairs, and it was a homeless guy by her door, basically, and he said he was looking for a hotel, someplace to stay. 11:30 at night, they service it.
Alila probably wouldn't be working 11:30 at night, but she might be working at 7:30. Yeah, she does work a lot longer hours, but still call the police on that one and say, I'm uncomfortable, and they'll make sure that, he gets moved out of the way. But they're not going to go and arrest him necessarily for just being there.
Yeah, I didn't even causing any problems or anything. She was just a little freaked out about, and being there.
Sometimes actually Lila's called me at 10:30 because she knows if she tells me somebody hasn't eaten, that there's no way I'm gonna not, get something. So she has sometimes worked till 10:30. She tries to get out at least by 7, but.
Right. Yeah, a lot, the nice thing about Lila is that she is available so much, but for her, it's like long days. She does work long days. She is a true value for Redondo and makes a huge difference.
Hey Brad, I was gonna say, I don't really see a lot of homeless in the bus stops, but in San Francisco, what they ended up doing, because the homeless were sleeping at these bus stops, actually living there, they actually removed all the benches and stuff in the bus stops.
Yeah, in Redondo, there are some bus stops where the bench has a divider in the middle that makes it hard for somebody to sleep across it, and still is, people can sit. San Francisco did I saw some stuff there where people were putting spikes up in front of their places so nobody could lay on the sidewalk. Redondo's not gonna do that. We're gonna do it as humanely as possible. Let's see, I have had one meeting with my counterpart in the Torrance City Council, and I'm trying to set up another one with perhaps the Torrance City Council, mayor, and even city manager to talk about the truck routes, because I know a lot of you are concerned about the truck routes that come down Palos Verdes Boulevard. There is a new law that talks about truck routes going through residential neighborhoods, and so hopefully some of that can be leveraged to actually push the truck route, not just have it end at Sepulveda and Palos Verdes Boulevard, but maybe have it end further back, because Sepulveda there is a residential street. It's all residential up until that one intersection. So I'm gonna argue with them and see if we can get the truck routes so that it doesn't even come close to Redondo. And I think that will make a big difference for the trucks that come through. And it will also make enforcement a lot easier, because that way, if you see a truck, it's not a mistake of, well, the truck route just ended and he's just going through. It's like any truck that is on Palos Verdes Boulevard or Prospect, hopefully at that point would be then considered not a cut through if it's not making a delivery. Yes?
Brad, do you know if Catalina Avenue is a truck route?
It is not.
Okay, because the Cisco large truck that services the grocery stores has been using it regularly lately.
Okay. If they are making a delivery, like if the grocery store was on Catalina, then they're allowed to do that. But they should not be using Catalina instead of PCH to get to Smart and Final or to...
This was northbound at Torrance, so it's regular.
Yeah.
But
So
I was already wakened by the bus, so,
John can tell you a lot about how to report that. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to make actions happen, but John is very, I don't know if you guys know John Pershall in there, but he's very experienced on the truck route issue.
What I've been doing is, I have a security camera that captures the trucks, and I get their name, and I send a letter to the executive of that business, and what I do is tell them that their trucks are entering illegally, and like, this was this morning at 8:51. A tractor trailer on Prospect, so Pepsi will get a letter. Anyway, I send them a picture of all the truck, that it's not a truck route, and say your drivers are violating our truck thing. And then I send them a picture of the truck route and ask them to please share that with their truck drivers. I've sent out about almost 100 letters so far. I've seen some of the trucks on PCH, so maybe it's working out.
thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
so appreciate it.
But you're welcome. Unfortunately, many of them just ignored anyway. Tony and I were standing on his corner one day, and the truck came around and told him it wasn't a truck route. The guy literally went around the block to come back and give us the finger. I told one guy on Prospect, it's not a truck route. He said, I know. And just put it on the
Yeah.
street. And then another one said, do you own this street? I said, as a matter of fact, my You know, they don't give a shit, I'm sorry. They
So
just-
I guess the only thing is to have, motor cops.
Well, it's
Gotta
great
get
when
them out
they
there
do it.
first.
It's great when
You
they
gotta
do
get
it.
them out there.
Oh.
It's hard.
They've had, I think, at least 4 roundups in the past year, but they come out for 4 or 5 hours and they've been on for a month or 3. And, you know, it's like cancer, you can't treat it once and then walk away, you have to continue at it until they finally get through all the truckers that come. I mean, they're daily, they're all the same ones just about, you know, that come through. And I've noticed more and more are coming out Prospect Avenue now, also PCH.
And just to go a little bit deeper into that, that is a non-truck route period. It's on the books of the city of Redondo Police Department.
Right.
I'm the one that started this whole process. And me and John was nice enough to get aboard and go from there and help me, and we've done a lot. But it's absolutely a non-truck route period, irregardless if it's the city of Torrance, you know, coming through the city of Torrance into our city, it's still a non-truck route. Or it could be ticketed, irregardless if they're delivering in our city or out of our city, it's still a non-truck route, that's a residential area. So they shouldn't be on there at all. And to get these cops out there to give tickets, I can call 3 or 4 times a day to dispatch, and I never see anybody come out. And I'll call 2, 3 times a day. Yeah, so it's quite frustrating. I've been at my location for 41 years. And the past 5 years, it's the worst.
And we got a question in the back here.
Well, I was gonna ask Brad first, because I was gonna go down the rabbit hole a little further. Is this an appropriate time to dialogue about the thing?
Let's push it till a little later so I can finish some of my
Yeah, you made a
status.
comment, and I really would like to ask you about that.
And then I got Wayne and,
I was gonna say next time you come try and put one of those Apple trackers on the truck and you can get them registered. For future, they're not going to go into a lot of detail, but isn't this something the city attorney could potentially start some type of action against as well? Or not?
I don't know, it would be a good question for them, but that hasn't come up in discussions with the police department when
Well,
we
the
had
city
those.
attorney said that it was, they had nothing to do with that, because the police department tried to use that on me. And, he said that, the city attorney said that it's solely the police department's responsibility to give these
Is it
tickets.
traffic enforcement?
Yeah, enforce the traffic.
Yeah.
So unless there's a crime, well, yeah.
Yeah, because they try to,
They can refer to.
It would have to be a misdemeanor or something like that, I think.
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
city
but I
attorney.
think that, I understand what you're saying, but it seems like I know that they can refer stuff to the city attorney for prosecution after that.
yeah, but like the attorney said, it has nothing to do with their department, so they don't even
Yeah.
want to get involved.
And did I have a question in the back corner as well? Did you have a?
Oh, no, I was just
comment?
wondering why we can't just put like a welcome to Redondo sign up that's only like 12 feet tall or something.
There is a welcome to Redondo sign, it's not 12 feet tall. And I would rather fix it in Torrance and push them off and allow us to enforce than have to put up a big
I
sign,
mean,
but.
if they can't stop it, I mean, Nils had a Zoom meeting one night, I think these gentlemen were on there, and somebody suggested that we have like a traffic council or something of the, and Nils, I love Nils, I know I'm not talking bad about him, he's just like, oh, that would just be too much work. It's like, there's a lot of traffic issues that are quality of life issues in Redondo, and it seems like there's no way to address them.
Public Safety
because the
Commission
police
is
department
probably
isn't big
the-
enough. Candace told me, I said, oh, there's a stop sign on my street, nobody stops, they just blow through it at 30 miles an hour. I almost got run over the other day, and she's like, yeah, we don't have enough police officers to sit on every stop sign in Redondo Beach. So, and I like Candace, I'm not talking, but it just seems that we need to come up with I hate the out of the box, but we need to come up with solutions that are bulletproof, like a
Yeah.
12-foot thing that you can't drive a truck through.
Or just put a traffic cam up, take pictures of the thing and send them tickets.
Yeah, and Brad, by the way, you mentioned, so I can't hold them now, right? So, John, I live near John and Tony. When my next door neighbor was hit in the crosswalk walking his dog, over a year ago, we started attending all of the public safety and public works meetings. And that has not been very effective
Okay.
with anything, so. Looking forward to the Q&A portion of the meeting where we talk a little bit more about traffic and police
Sure.
and some of those issues.
All right, so I'll keep on going on my list of things that we've been doing. We passed a moratorium on smoke shops because District 1 has 5 smoke shops, District 4 has 6 smoke shops, and then there's a few others throughout the city. There's like 15 total. Smoke shops is also a way that people are getting around the marijuana side. A lot of these smoke shops have been cited, they've been selling THC products, and it's illegal for them to do that. So the first step is to have the moratoriums so don't get any more. Because right now, if somebody wants to open a retail business, it's like, I'm selling socks, I'm selling smoke paraphernalia. It's the same license. So we want to make a stop to anybody doing that, and then create an ordinance so that if you're going to have a smoke shop, it's going to be regulated as a special license, and we're going to limit the number of licenses. We've had a discussion on it. It could be one, it could be 2 smoke shops per city council district. It doesn't mean we'll close the ones that are there, but it will be a first come, first serve to get your correct license. And then at that point, if you ever go out of business, change hands, have a problem with the police, anything like that, then those shops will go away. So we'll be able to drop the number of smoke shops. And I think that, I think that's actually one of the bigger issues that we have, public safety wise, bigger than having marijuana shops and bigger than all the other stuff, because the smoke shops are so unregulated. And you have,
Kids can go in there.
yeah, there's no age restriction, there's no ID verification, there's the secret menu. So I walk in and they go, it's like, no, we don't have anything like that. And then somebody else walks in and it's like, oh yeah, would you like this?
There's no identification required in the smoke shop? I mean, I remember like 20, 30 years ago, you could buy cigarettes without proving you were 18.
Yeah. By having a smoke shop ordinance, by saying your license is a smoke shop, we can actually limit it to no one over 18, nobody over 21 in the shop. And that, we can start enforcing that. But at the moment, it's just it's not working. And that was started before I was on the council. So I give credit to the previous council for getting that started. We just passed some funding to put in greenery and plants at a park under the Southern California Edison Towers at Herondo and Pacific Coast Highway, those big super tall towers near where the Welcome to Redondo sign is.
That entire lot that's there?
I think it's a couple
That's a huge
acres. It's
lot.
like a 5-acre lot, and I believe the park is like 1 point something that that the city's paying to do. So the city's paying Edison a very small amount of money, but we're paying for all the park money, for all the improvements. And the hope is that once the city sort of has that possession, it's going to be very difficult to lose that once those power lines come down. And it's not costing, Edison isn't charging the city, it's not like they're charging the city tens of thousands of dollars a month in rent for that.
Is it gonna remain fenced off?
No, it should be public access, drought tolerant plants, very low water need for people to be able to walk through. So I think that'll be and again.
By the way, thank you for voting for that. I know that it was needed a 4/5 vote and one vote was against it, which was kind of a
That was an abstain, but
Yeah, well, effectively the same thing. But the main thing is that's something that the Mayor Brand was working on for almost 20 years. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that we were able to get it through. Thank you for voting.
yeah, and I'm not gonna jump into the city council and say, okay, now that I'm here, I'm gonna undo everything that was done before, because I would hope that when I leave, if there's something that's like this close to being finished, that the council will go, it's like, look, they put all the work, let's just go with it. So, would I have voted for it 8 years ago? I don't know. It's like at that point I would have paid a lot more attention and studied it and all that, but there's that. There's a few other things the city's been doing that may not be my favorite project, but I will still support it because that was, there's so much work that was done on that.
It's almost there.
The signs in the harbor that Todd worked on for 8 years that still didn't get done during his 8 years. It's like, I'll support that. Do I care either way? Not really, but it's like, hey, that's something Todd really wanted. I want to make sure that happens. So I'm happy to do that. It's just a way of being civil and making sure that hopefully the people that follow us, continue to do the same thing. The ramp at Avenue A down to the beach.
Yeah.
A little bit of progress. The plans have been submitted to planning. and theoretically should be coming to planning in July. You're on planning, Wayne?
Yeah,
So I'm assuming you haven't seen that yet,
we haven't seen anything on it yet.
but theoretically I was told they should be going to you in July.
Yeah, and the big problem is it has to be ADA compliant, which the other one was not, and,
So
I
it's-
think it's gonna be like $3 or $4 million, I think.
Yeah, it's a crazy amount of money, and it's been waiting on the county. So it's not like Redondo's been going, it's like, oh, we're not doing it. The county's just, it's not a priority to them. So it just took a really long time. And Coastal Commission, I believe, I don't think they delayed it, but there were some modifications that Coastal wanted that I believe has also been addressed. So I think once it goes through planning, it will be ready to go. And then we're up to the county again to actually spend the money. But I will work with Holly Mitchell's office on that because there is no ADA access to the beach from the pier to Riviera Village. So that's a really long way for somebody to go. And I think I can use the ADA angle way more than anything else.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, the ADA, it can't be, it's like a 4% grade, it can't go more than some number of feet before it has to have a landing of a certain size. And because it's so steep, it's gonna be a whole zigzag. Honestly, I think they probably could have built like a funicular or an elevator for less money and had it be ADA compliant. It's just crazy how much time and money that the county is taking on that.
Now, would there be federal funding for that, you think? No?
County.
It's all county.
And unfortunately, because they own that, all we can do is complain. But complain. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. That's kind of how a lot of government works. And so, if any of you sit there and go, hey, what's going on? Just write to Holly Mitchell's office and say, what's going on with that ramp? And at least maybe she'll start to go, okay, let me make sure it gets funded.
The county's out of money too, so.
But a couple million out of their $1 billion budget, they can still afford that for Redondo Beach. Give us something. If there's anybody that you know or that you is a financial professional, the Budget and Finance Commission is going to have an opening for somebody from District 1. So have them put in an application and let me know so I can advocate for them. But whoever the current, I didn't write down his name, Waldron? No, I can't remember. But we have a commissioner that's term is expiring. And so a District 1 Budget and Finance Commissioner, I'd like to have somebody with true professional finance experience. Youth commissioners, the youth commission is, I think it's a yearly type thing. And so that application period is coming up in August, I believe. So if you have no kids, and not just high school seniors, this can be, I don't know if there's an age lower limit, but I would say probably any kid in high school is good, because if you have some sophomores in there, maybe they can go for 2 years or 3 years, and then they'll say, hey guys, I got the experience, I know what we're doing. We don't have all these new kids all the time that don't know what's going on. And then the biggest items going on is our strategic plan. So we did our strategic planning session. The next thing that comes out of that in June is our budget. But the strategic planning, the number one issue that came out of that was economic development. The number two was implementation of Measure FP, fire police stations built and on time, on budget. With the economy being such an unknown, with tariffs, with everything else, the faster we go through it, the better. Because if it takes us 5 years instead of 3 years, guaranteed it's going to cost more money. It's not going to be that we're spending money more slowly. It's going to cost more. So we want to make sure we get it done as fast as we can reasonably smartly do it. It's not like you go too fast, but if we just get the contracts and get people going and don't just go linearly. It's like make sure we're doing everything at the same time. So those are our top priorities out of that. There's a lot of others. It isn't finally wordsmithed by the city manager, but we should be getting the strategic plan out soon, and I'll make sure that you guys can see that. I'm assuming everybody here gets my newsletter, and that's why you're here, But if you're not on my newsletter, add your email address over there or go to bradwaller.com. That's the site I'm using now. The elect.bradwaller.com is my election site. Bradwaller.com is my city council site. It's my old personal site, so you can still get to my car stuff if you want. But under contact, there's a form that can get you added to my email list as well, and you can tell people about that. Okay, not as bad as we're doing. I feel like I've been talking for an hour, and it's only been a half hour, so that's good. I'll talk about my priorities. As I said, from our strategic plan, economic development, getting the good businesses in Redondo, attracting and retaining. I actually knocked on the door of the Ferrari dealership over on Hawthorne Boulevard in Torrance and said, wouldn't you rather have a Redondo Beach address? You could be over, somewhere near the end of the Cannonball Run over the Portofino. They own that building, they built it for themselves, so the chances of them moving is probably low, but he's got my card. If Torrance pisses him off or something happens, you never know. But if you see like a retailer or a company like that, or somebody, you want to get them into the city. Dave Charobe, it's Charobee, is our business concierge. He's the person that you can send any business to that's thinking about coming to the city, is having issues. One of my priorities that's a little bit further down is the customer service mindset of the city, so that city staff is really thinking about, hey, how can I help you? It's one thing, it's like, there may be problem people that keep coming back over and over and causing problems or whatever. But the first time somebody shows up, it's like, how can I shepherd you through this whole process? This is everything you need to know. Here's all your stuff. If you're gonna, build a house, you're gonna need these permits. You're gonna have to, have fire inspection. You have to have all these things done, as opposed to right now, a lot of times it seems to be that people come to the city and it's like, oh, here you go. And you gotta go figure it out. So I would really like to make sure that that mindset changes, and Mike Witsamsky is on board with that. And it's gonna take time. It's not gonna just happen right away. Yes?
Well, yeah, cutting red tape is always good.
Yes.
Bureaucracy is always good. But in terms of being business friendly, it's like, what kind of business are you thinking about? Obviously, we're not too friendly to smoke shops right now.
We're not, no.
A little iffy on cannabis, and tattoo parlors and massage parlors, probably less friendly than other things. I assume mostly when you say business friendly, you're really after tax revenue.
Yeah.
Because your overriding objective is quality of life for residents.
Yes.
So what kinds of businesses are you thinking about being most friendly to?
Car dealers are great. Platinum Auto House over on PCH is one of the top revenue generators for the city. They might not sell many cars, but when they do, that's good sales tax. Cheesecake Factory is one of our best revenue sources.
In-N-Out Burger, the one in North Redondo.
Yeah, so, retail restaurants, somebody who's gonna do high volume, hopefully it's somebody that's attracting the local people. We don't necessarily want a business that's going to bring, a lot of traffic back and forth, because people go, it's like, if it's servicing our local people, I'd say Cheesecake Factory. It's people come to it, it's not that they're driving through.
Yeah, so follow-up question. So that's the other kind of businesses. We have this jobs housing imbalance thing. So is the council thinking about also bringing office kind of jobs here so that people don't have to drive to their
Office,
traffic?
yes and no. The problem with office is we have a lot of vacant office space now. So we need to find the companies to fill those office spaces. As opposed, I don't want to make sure I'm not saying it's like build more offices, because we do have offices. But yes, if we can go find a tech company and have them relocate. There used to be the Silicon Beach idea back when we had Silicon Valley and Silicon Alley. It was going to be Silicon Beach, and they were going to build a whole big tech center and attract people to this area, and that would be at least a piece of that.
I was gonna say, I do commercial real estate, and I'm so busy right now with commercial medical office space, and that's good to go
And
after.
so medical would be great there.
Various
So-
specialties especially. I mean, unfortunately, I have to work on my birthday tomorrow because I'm doing so much. But that's who's doing office space right now.
Okay. And Wayne?
All I was saying was medical, I mean, we, the planning commission, about 6 months ago, we just approved a new medical office suite at the old TD Bank, building, that's when you make the turn off and the Renato sign, that's been converted to that. But one thing that might be an important consideration, when the Galleria project first came up, we were pushing to have a lot of Class A office space added to the project itself. Unfortunately, prior to COVID, that was the way it was looking, would be a good thing, and then afterwards, everyone's working out their houses now. But since the Galleria, I guess the lender called back their note, foreclosed on it, I guess, for different stories.
I don't know, I just know that it's,
That might be an area that might have to be re-examined again, because that would be an area that, like, Mayor Light and I were talking about, just getting some tech companies to lease space there would be ideal for the city. It'd be, you know, people work there, they could shop and eat, and it'd be great to renovate Artesia Boulevard.
yeah, our Artesia Aviation Corridor and the Galleria are prime focuses for, you know, what we need to do economically in the city. Riviera Village can always be better, but it's what you point to and you say, this is what works. PCH, we got a bunch of vacancies, both in District 1 and District 2. I didn't do the math, but Chad did. He came up with a number of hundreds of thousands of square feet of empty office space on PCH. I don't know if he was counting District 1 or 2 or just his district, but so we have the vacant space. We just bring people in, and there is some red tape. There's some things the city is looking at doing to make it easier for the businesses so that there aren't quite so many hurdles. So maybe they don't have to go to planning if it's something that's just kind of a basic type thing.
Well, so then you mentioned all the vacancies on PCH. So the reason there's all those vacancies on PCH is because of parking.
Yes.
There's a parking requirement, like you can't. So when Steve was our city council member, he said, I wanted to put an insurance agency in right down the street from me. And they said, oh, if you have 3 insurance agents, you have to have 22 parking spaces. You know, there's nothing you can really do about that.
Other than addressing the parking requirements. And they're looking at doing that for Artesia Boulevard in particular, because Artesia is very similar to PCH with these super narrow lots that have 3 parking spots. So there's things they're gonna do there, and I think we're gonna look at Artesia, and if it starts working there, we can move that to PCH to see if something can be done. But
What do you have in your head for a solution to?
reducing the parking requirement is the possibility.
But so if you have 4, like there's vacancies, I live on Avenue B, there's vacancies between
Yeah, between A and B
A and B.
there's a lot of vacancies.
But there's no parking, like, if you, like Steve wanted to put an insurance agency in there, what do you do if there's only 3 parking spaces on PCH in front of a 4-unit strip mall thing, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a brainstorm, like what would you think would be a solution?
At this point, the only solution I can come up with would be to remove the parking requirement and say, we're gonna do a
But
conditional
that
use
doesn't
permit
solve
allowing you to
the
build
problem.
it. It allows the business to get there.
A lot of them, like the ones between El Toledo Junior and Avenue A, they don't have any parking.
One of the problems we have with that too, though, in run against is the coastal, the planning commission, is that if you're on the west side of the PCH, you're in the coastal zone. And the coastal commission has a lot of authority over that, and we have to we have a local coastal plan, which includes parking, a parking element in it. So if we made a change to that, we'd have to get approval from the coastal commission too, unfortunately.
Yes.
But on the east side of the street, though, it doesn't exist. Like we had a 43-unit project we approved on high school, which we couldn't put any parking regulation on it at all.
Yeah.
And to your point too, like one thing I've talked to some businesses, like in Belleville, we had a dog grooming place that was trying to open up, and they wanted to put incredibly dense sound walls between the dog grooming place and another business. The business right next door was a dry cleaner with one of those loud machines on the side, and you know the owner was just like, if I put it up to the city code, it's going to cost me an arduous amount of money. It's going to take me more than my 3-year lease to make that cost improvement. So we were able to do some adjustments on it. But the planning department seems to be more flexible with that now.
That's good.
We made some requests saying, is this really necessary for that? And they backed off. So it saved the build out about $50,000 or $80,000 in construction costs.
And that's the goal of the city, is to sit there and see how can we work with these businesses and come up with what's reasonable. But yeah, PCH there, west of PCH is definitely
Well, it's blighted
more
because
complicated.
it's vacant. I mean,
Yeah,
it's horrible.
and so we need to do something with it. But,
But we've been talking about this since Steve was our city
Yeah.
council member, which is
15,
15 years. And it's gotten worse, it hasn't gotten better.
right. So that's one of the focuses. I don't necessarily have the solution right now. If I had the solution, we would have fixed it. It's not an easy problem, but it's definitely a problem that we need to address. And parking is the biggest part of that problem, just because that's what prevents somebody from going there.
Like Wayne said, it's the coastal commission, it's Caltrans, it's the property owners, but ultimately it's a quality of life issue for all the people that live on the avenues.
Yeah. So the other thing that I've been concentrating on, I've got a technology background, so I want to be able to leverage technology to improve the city website, the city app, city services. I've done a lot with artificial intelligence, and you can create a custom AI agent that is trained on city codes and city processes. When somebody comes, because I don't know about you guys, I'm saying this in front of a recording here, the city website is beautiful, but it sucks. It's like 6 clicks to get to the content you want. The search does not work very well. It doesn't find me what I want. If I have to, as a city council member, have to keep on going to the website and going, it's like, here, 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 oh, there's what I need. That's not good. So the nice thing about having that AI agent, it can replace that search. And if we train people to use it like a true concierge at a hotel, you don't walk up to the concierge and say, hungry, food, dinner. It's like, with the AIs, it's, I'm gonna be replacing the roof on my house. What do I need to know? And it would go off and it would look and it would conversationally give you that. And then you can ask it the next question and follow-up questions. That's how it should work. It should work just like the smartest person in the room at the city desk. And if we can do that, that'll make things so much easier, because I did replace my roof and the city website didn't tell me anything. I had to call a person who then basically said, yes, you have to get a permit, and yes, it will cost money, but I can't tell you how much. It's like, yeah, it was just pulling teeth. And I'm somebody that's relatively connected, and I would love it if our city website could become something that's really useful. The app, the Access Redondo app, is no longer available on iPhone, as I was warning people a long time ago. It's antiquated and it got pulled by Apple. So the city is in process of, or in discussions with the vendor. I'm gonna be part of that, since I know a lot about user interface and experience, and I can tell them that that app, again, what it does, it works, but it's even worse than the city's website. The font is too tiny. It's like I'm looking at the people here. All of our eyes can't read that font. There's a lot of things they can do. And again, it's like, oh, I want to report the homeless person. It's like, okay, hit this button, hit that. Which category is it? I don't. If the top 5 things, 6 things, whatever that people do, have a button at the front. It's like, you know, report garbage, report a homeless person, report a sign down, whatever the top things are. Is you just like one click and you're in there. Sarah?
I have a background in usability testing for big commerce sites, and before they redid the website, I asked them about usability testing, and I pretty much got jerked around through the whole process, and there was never any intention to set objectives for specific tasks and do testing to make sure that it can be done. And at the end, I just try the simplest things, and of course, it was just as you explained. So I hope that you will be an advocate for true user objectives predefined, and then testing to make sure that the end product actually achieves those.
Yeah, I'd say the website is a typical example of something that was designed by committee, where every single person said, my thing is the most important. I need to have a menu item for that. And when you go through a site redesign, it's like, great, I've got my thing and I've got like 5 menu items. And 4 years later, I've got 12 menu items, and so yeah, there's definitely a lot of work that can be done on that. I don't know how easy it is to make those changes, but I will definitely be
I
advocating.
volunteer to be a pest about that if you need to, like
Sure.
delegate.
Just as bad as it may be, there are portals there to get to all the government officials and everything. And there's a traffic portal, you want to send a message to the city council. I've used it quite a lot, nobody ever responds to me, but I do use it quite a lot. You did get an email back saying they'll respond in 3 days, and, you know, like 3 years go by, you're still waiting. But anyway, we should, you know, if they see people, something consistently being reported, they may wake up and pay attention to it, like trucks or
Yeah,
speeding cars or whatever.
the reporting, the same thing that the app reports, the website does, and the website's far more extensive. Public records requests, for example, you can't do from the app, I believe. At least I don't think you can do from the app. So that is another thing that you can do from the website, but it's just cumbersome and hard to get to find that you can do that. But yeah, that's definitely.
So how far down the road would the AI help be? Is it, to your
I'm
point,
I'm hoping months, but
the level of my phone says, would you like me to ask chat APT? And I'm like, CPT, I'm like,
yeah.
yes, ask, and then you get all the information you need, and instead of having to search for it yourself.
In June, when we do the budget, that's what I'm gonna be advocating for, is to allocate money to that. The website provider, I believe, has a ChatGPT plugin. So it's like, I'm hoping it's not gonna be one of these huge 6-figure tasks, but I think I can just get it in the budget and get it done. And then hopefully, once it's been authorized, it should take a couple months, so I'm really
I think
hoping.
it freaks a lot of people out. I mean, I've been really cautious about using anything that's AI, but I think that if something like that were rolled out, it would be great to offer it as a teaching element for us retired people who are not familiar with computers that much.
Sure.
To really make it, you know, and to help get it instituted into the system.
And we could have Sarah help us create the video that explains it to people. But, you know, that does go to, you know, one of the, you know, technology things that says, you know, technology, generational, you know, people are more familiar, less familiar, and we have to make sure that it's easy to use so that it's accessible to everybody. I don't know if you guys know. There's a mayor and city council email address, so you can send it to one email address and it distributes to everybody. There wasn't anything like that for the commissioners. I talked to IT, and I don't know if it's there yet, but there should be, going forward very soon, an email address where you could write to planning @ and it goes to everybody, public safety @ and it goes to everybody, because it was cumbersome. Again, it's like, I want to send a comment to the commission, and they would send it to the city clerk, and the city clerk might or might not send it to everybody. Why put humans in the loop? Let's just make it automatic. So that's something that I talked to the IT department about a week or two ago.
Can I make one more request that you might add to that is we can sign up to automatically get the city council agendas ahead of time, but that same is not available for commissions.
Okay, let me grab my pen. That's what I need to know. I need to know that kind of stuff. So,
Make it as simple as like saying, hey, Google, connect me to something.
yeah. That is my hope. The environment is another one of my focuses. We've had a couple discussions about making sure that the city owns the little strip in front of everybody's house, and there aren't trees. There's a map that says there's a tree well, vacant, and the city knows how many are vacant. And Zane has talked about it, I've talked about it. I'd love to be able to make a priority to fill all of those wells. Now, I will tell you, there are residents who have told the city, I don't want that tree. We might say, sorry, the city owns it, we want to have a tree there, it's better for the environment, it's better for the entire neighborhood. It does improve your property value. Having a tree in front of your house, the bigger the tree is in general, having a big mature tree does a lot for property values.
And coming from an area in Westwood Hills, they planted trees that you know, 40 years before we got there, that are now breaking up all the cement, so. be
We've
very
learned a lot
careful,
in
please.
40 years. We don't plant eucalyptus, we don't plant ficus, we don't plant magnolias. So the city has a list of drought-tolerant trees that go in. So the city is planting better trees for the environment, better trees that aren't gonna be, you know, using all the water and going into your sewer lines and picking up the sidewalks. If it does pick up the sidewalk, that is the city's responsibility to fix.
But what if you don't have the money to fix it? That's what happened where we were living in Westwood Hills. That then we had these,
The city should, I'll say, if I'm part of it, it's a trip and fall hazard if the city doesn't do it, in which case it's gonna cost them way more than fixing that sidewalk would have cost.
right,
So, we need to make sure the sidewalks stay maintained. And if you see, that's a great thing to report in the city app, is if you see like a 1-inch thing on the sidewalk, let us know so we can fix it, so we don't get sued, because a couple $100,000 could be used for a whole police officer.
A couple of years ago, they came to Avenue F and actually shaved.
There's somebody whose responsibility would literally, they hired somebody to walk the entire city. They had an iPad, they walked the entire city. But if we don't have that person, we need you guys. You're our best eyes and ears. You first, then Wayne.
Yeah, a lot of those parkways also have ornamental grass, which we're supposed to stop watering here shortly. Is the city gonna do anything for drought-resistant vegetation, you know, sort of at that level?
It's hard because the city owns it, but does not plant it. So, or you're talking about the parkways like in the middle of the road?
No,
Or
where you're gonna.
in front of your house.
By the sidewalk, between the sidewalk and the street.
Right.
Which is the city
Again,
right away.
city right away, but it's up to you to maintain and plant as you want. I don't think we have anything yet saying you can't put in artificial grass, but I could see that coming.
I'm not gonna do that.
I'm just saying,
wondering,
the
if
city-
The city was gonna do something,
but-
I'd sit back. If I have to do something, I'd wanna see the guidelines.
Yeah. The city did pass something for the parkways in the middle of the road about using native plants, drought-tolerant plants. So they're redoing a lot of that.
Maintains that.
So, but I'm just saying, I would think that you could look at that list and say, hey, I wanna put that there. I know many years ago, the city got very upset at people for putting drought-tolerant plants in their front yard instead of grass, but that's gone away. 'Cause I did talk to one resident who, the city fought them over drought-tolerant plants, about solar on their house. It's like, this was many years ago, and it was to their benefit, because by the time the city approved everything, her husband was at the age limit where the property tax got lowered.
Other than saying, with regard to what you said about trees and such, as part of strategic plan, each of the commissions were asked to come up with a list of things they wanted to have covered. And one of the things the planning commission came up with was, trying to look at a tree canopy type of ordinance similar to what they have in Pasadena, which was, and the reason I mentioned that, because I know Jim Miller at the last council meeting was talking about some trees that were taken down.
Yep.
So we actually made a suggestion and said that we should probably look at other cities, and we looked at the percentage of tree canopy coverage they have, and that it actually was quite good. And I don't know if the city looked at that during the strategic plan, but the Pasadena model seems to be something that might be very helpful. And then he also takes certain trees that won't cause problems, like we were having with magnolias and things like that.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
also with the astroturf stuff too, we actually made a recommendation to not do that, because astroturf is pretty environmentally nasty
Yes.
in a lot of different ways. But the problem is that the city does seem to have issues with people planting certain things in front. I know like some people are doing like gardens, and there was some pushback on that, so I don't know if the city's ever gonna look at that again too.
Don't know about the garden stuff, but the tree stuff, we did see, I believe we did talk about the tree canopy a little bit in our strategic plan. It was, environment is a little bit lower on our priority list just because of those big items, but that is definitely something that I think is a focus. And honestly, with the people that we have on the city council and the mayor, trees, plants, that kind of thing, it's a high priority. So it's something that we will pay attention to, and we will try to make some strides on. I mentioned my website is bradwaller.com. My email address is brad.waller@redondo.org. You can sign up for my newsletter on my website. I plan to have what I'm gonna call office hours. The city is closed every other Friday, but the Fridays that it is open, my plan is to be at my desk at City Hall in those afternoons, the Friday afternoons. So I was there this last Friday. I actually got a phone call to my city council number while I was sitting at my desk.
Actual phone line.
Actual hard phone, And I do have a phone number listed on the website, and that phone will ring to my cell phone. So it gets forwarded to me. So my cell phone was buzzing, but I literally had a phone, landline that I was able to pick up and talk to the resident. So that was a first for me there. But I've had a couple meetings in that office, and if you want to have a meeting, you want to get a tour of City Hall, out of everybody here, I bet you only 2 or 3 have been behind the doors at City Hall. In the old days, it used to be, it's like you could talk to the secretary and say, hey, can I meet with the mayor? Oh, sure, let me see, and let me walk you back there. Now it's all locked doors. So if you want to see how city works, let me know. I'm happy to walk you around and show it off. City Hall's public in a way. It's offices and all that, but I mean, it's paid for by all your taxes.
I have a question. Is there any new developments on building the police new headquarters? And because I know we passed.
We passed the bond, and so the first order is some of the organizational side of it to get that ready. After that, they're going to have to get the architect involved, or hire the architect. I don't think they hired the architect, but choose the architect, get everything going, sell the first bonds, and then start the construction. The school district's a bit ahead of us because they've already, I believe, gotten to the point where they're putting the order through to get their first bonds sold. So you don't sell all the bonds. The whole, was it 93 million for FP? You don't do the whole 93 million at once, because then the city and you are paying interest on that. So if we can do, okay, we need 20 million to get started, we do the 20 million, and then it's like, okay, now it's time to hire the people to start doing the construction. Now we'll do 40 million for that, and just go move along as you go. And that way you're saving on interest rates. When I was on the school board and we had bonds, when interest rates fell, we refinanced our bonds, and saved you guys, millions of dollars in interest. It was estimated originally at like $24 per 100,000 value for the one school bond that ended up being $16 to $18 per 100,000 by the time we were done with it. I will make sure that when interest rates drop, that we do the same thing here at the city, because right now interest rates are relatively high. So I'm kind of hoping that sometime in the next N years while I'm around, they do drop again and we can refinance and really save you guys a lot of money, because that's coming out of your property taxes.
I hate to mention the word tariffs, but won't that affect possibly the cost of construction?
Yes.
And have you factored some type of kind of float in there?
There was a factor in there before we knew about tariffs. So the bond had an escalation factor in there. Is it enough for tariffs? Hard to say, because we also don't know what's going to happen with the economy, because depending on ups and downs, the construction industry, if tariffs affect the construction industry and people stop building, then we should actually have more leverage when it comes time to bid, because now you might have 20 people wanting to do your construction instead of 3.
But the cost of materials is...
Cost of materials may be up, the cost of labor might actually be controlled a little bit. We can hope something like that, hope. It's bad for the economy, but it's good for the city.
Yeah. The hard thing about that is with all the fire damage and the fires, labor costs are gonna, unfortunately, I'm a realtor, and I know that construction costs right now, we're trying to get everything done now, because there's not gonna be any laborers really around. There's 30,000 structures that need to be rebuilt, and that's gonna be put a big dent in the ability to do that. But regarding to the bond focus, I mean, initially the top we were pushing at was the 2 fire stations that are both they're not earthquake rated. One could fall down on our $1 million fire engine that we just bought from them. I mean, we were talking about prioritizing station number 2. Is that still a priority, or is that still open right now?
As far as I know, the number one priority is both fire stations and
Okay.
police, all equal. Now, the annex, that's the redheaded stepchild. If there's money left over, they'll work on the annex.
Right.
But it's habitable, the plumbing works again. I don't know if you guys knew about that. A lot of people smell the plumbing. The whole sewer pump station failed. But, yeah, the annex isn't in bad shape. When it rains, you don't have a foot of water on the floor at the annex like you do at the police station. Police station basement just floods. Today, yes, right now, probably, is like Fire Safety Day. I don't remember exactly what it's called. What do they call it? I think I had it on my list. But it's going on at fire station number 1 and 2, but like right now. So after this meeting, if you want to go to the fire station and see it and say, hey, can I see some of this stuff? I bet you they would take you back there.
It's worth checking out, you'd be surprised.
So if you have not seen the police station's harder to get into, and that's why I'm not recommending that. I think the police station basement is probably worse than either of the fire stations, but the fire station, it's not like you say, hey, I would love to live here.
Good time I got the shower room.
Yeah. And watch the carpet and, speaking of that fire station and that, right across the street from them tonight, the Women's Club of Redondo Beach is having their spaghetti dinner fundraiser. It's a fundraiser for the fire department. So that's 400 South Broadway, 5 to 8 o'clock tonight. At this point, I don't know if you can get the advance tickets, but it's a fundraiser, so if it's $20 a person, not a big deal. The spaghetti is spaghetti. It's not like it's going to be gourmet food, but it's a fundraiser. There's some good silent auction stuff. There's some plants for sale. I've been going to that for decades. Check it out if you can. It's right across the street from the fire station, so you can do the fire station, and then, well, the fire station thing ends at like 2 o'clock, and the spaghetti dinner's not till 5, so you can't quite go back to it, but that's a good thing. On the website and in my email, I announced a bunch of other things, but some didn't. There's a Water Safety Day at Redondo Union High School put on by the Redondo Council PTSA. That's May 18th. This is all on my website now, so you don't have to write it down if you don't want. May 18th, 11 to 2 at the Aquatic Center. The Ed Foundation is having their annual fundraiser. They're calling it the Sunset Soiree. That's May 16th, 6 to 10 p.m. at Kincaids. Supporting the Ed Foundation is good because the better our schools do, the better our property values do. And if you want your property values to go up, help our schools, keep our schools the best in the South Bay. Medal of Valor Awards for police and fire. The South Bay area is May 22nd. I didn't write down where that is. I think it's Sonesta, but I'm not sure. Do you know that, Wayne? Medal. That one's on my website. Some of these things didn't make my newsletter before I got told of them. Memorial Day at Veterans Park, May 26th at 1300 hours, because at 1 p.m. for those of you that don't know military time. Redondo Beach Police are having a blood drive July 16th. Lots of time to sign up for that still. I'll be there at 2 p.m. And my wife's favorite event of the year is the police canine demonstration at the high school, July 26th, 1 to 5 p.m. I don't remember if there's even a fee to get in, but even if it is, it supports good causes, and you get to see the police dogs doing a lot of cool stuff. They do drug sniffing, but most of the fun stuff are the competitions, fastest dog and hardest takedown, and you want to see a dog jump 10 feet in the air and pull some 180 pound guy down to the ground. It's a lot of fun.
There are no police cats.
No cats. No. That was an April Fool's joke, or no? I think it was a police falcon that they did was April Fool's this year. But you know, that used to be Mother's Day when they had that, and that was literally my wife's Mother's Day present, was to go to that. So it's that good of a thing. So with that, I've actually gotten through my list. Mark has.
State of the city,
Oh, that's right. State of the City, June
18.
18th.
At 7:45 in the morning, I think.
It says 7 a.m. to 9:30, 35 bucks at the Sonesta.
And that is just, it's gonna be the one. I know, Bill did it a number of times at the Performing Arts Center later in the day, and Jim did the same thing last year. And he said he's just doing the one this year. He may do a Zoom follow-up. Last year at the Performing Arts Center, he had 15 people show up. So instead of being on stage and with 800 seats and 15 people, he just walked down to the audience and had conversations. So this time he thinks that he might do a Zoom. So if you don't want to pay the money and go to it and you want to watch it, he'll do some version of it on Zoom. This is
And the Medal of Valor is at the Torrance Marriott.
Torrance Marriott, okay. See, I didn't write, I wrote some notes, like, I'll remember that. At this point, I've been talking for half an hour or an hour, so. John?
Okay, I wanted to ask you about this meeting in Torrance. Would it be beneficial if the residents came along with you?
I don't think at this point yet. I want to see how Torrance responds.
And then, second thing, the law you mentioned, if I understand, it doesn't go into effect until January of next year.
The AB,
Yeah, it's 98 or whatever.
yeah, I can't remember. But,
It sounds like a really good solution.
Yeah.
But not until next year.
well, but you can still implement it now ahead of time, so you don't be in violation next year.
Yes.
But I think that's gonna be a big leverage point for us to be able to argue that,
Yeah.
because somebody might say, well, let's just have it go down and have it come over here and go this way. And it's like, but that's a residential street too. So you can't add a truck route to a residential street, for
So,
sure.
a quick comment on that, just to follow up. When we first started pressuring the city to, address traffic concerns, traffic safety, and the truck routes, the first meeting we held with Public Works, the first solution the Public Works Department suggested to solve the truck route problem was to make Prospect and Palos Verdes a truck route.
Yeah.
So I caution you
Yes.
that,
I-
they sound opportunistic there, but
No, I-
sometimes we need to watch our own people.
I was at that city council
Extremely
meeting
disappointing to see.
where they basically said, yeah, the easy solution is just do the loop like that. And that would probably get Chad more involved, because almost all of that Prospect part is District 2. I'm sure he would hear a lot about it. When I was talking to the Torrance City Council member, I said, well, how about coming, I wanted to skip the Prospect. It's like, we could just have them go across on Anza. He says, well, I don't want trucks going down Anza. I want them to stop earlier. So the city council member in Torrance seems very supportive of stopping the trucks. And I think maybe some of the pushback is from the Torrance city staff. So that's why I'm trying to get the Torrance mayor involved. So if I can say, great, I've got council and mayor from Redondo, council and mayor from Torrance, all agreeing, then the staff hopefully then implements what they want.
Thank you, Brett.
And I attended one of those meetings, and what came out of it was that the governmental people at Redondo was going to communicate with the governmental people at Torrance to try to, I guess there was a couple streets that were sort of interconnected with us to kind of make that a truck route, a non-truck route.
And the Torrance people just weren't responding. And that's why I took it up. It's like, who else can they not respond to? So that's why I reached out to Aurelio as soon as I was elected. And we had coffee over in the Riviera Village, and he posted a selfie, and people was like, why are you talking to Aurelio? It's like, because he's my counterpart.
There was a city in California, Tony sent me a link to, there was a city in California, had the same issue with truck routes, and they had a newscaster come down and do a whole thing about it, but they found out that a lot of these truckers are Googling the route, and it's coming up as they can go through. And I guess they did something with Google or whoever to have it changed so that that doesn't show up as a truck route. I'd like to do a protest and go down there with pitchforks and shovels and stand.
If we know when the Google car's coming by, have a big sign that says.
Anyway, so anyway, that's something that may be an issue that, I don't know how you tackle that.
Yeah, if it's truly Google, then there's one avenue. I'm kind of assuming that a lot of the truckers have an app or something that their company is giving them, and that's, I think, the avenue we also work with. But if we can, again, move the truck route half a mile away, it's not a mistake anymore.
That is an avenue to help, by the way. So when the chief decided to engage, CHP to do some truck checks along that corridor for those corridors, one of the things they found out, they shared with us when we met with them, was that one of the truck route apps actually showed Palos Verdes as a continuous truck route. And so it would be nice to get the city involved and make sure that the company that supports that app fixes that problem. Doesn't seem like that would take a lot, but a letter from, city letterhead to just remind them this is not a truck route.
And that's definitely, if we know, if you guys can help me research, if you guys are good at doing research, I can also look into it. But if we can find out who that company or companies are, I'd be very happy to get Mike Wazamski to send him a sterling. The whoever it is that's doing the routes. So is it a is it Waze Google, or is it Truck Mapper or something like that? It could be that there's somebody else that the truckers use.
Yes.
And if we can find out who that is.
Tractor trailer came down PB Boulevard from PCH, he went down, and I happened to be going that way anyways. He went down, just followed and made a right on Hawthorne, went the whole way down to Lamina and turned into Lamina. I mean, he should have just gone straight down PCH and left on Hawthorne, and yet they're still coming through and going around that way.
Michael, you had a comment? You had your hand raised.
What are the limitations when you're saying a truck route? What is the limitation to where you can and where you can't?
I don't know if a truck is considered
Size restriction, is it
10,000 pounds and some number of axles.
Axle restriction?
3 tons.
Yeah, I think it was
3
weight and
tons?
how many axles they had or something.
This one says 3 tons.
Okay. So I think a Cybertruck
3 tons.
just fits underneath that.
Then you see a double tanker come up the street here.
So
That's
it's worth noting that there are exceptions to that too, for local delivery, emergency vehicles, city vehicles.
Exactly. Yeah, because we're over on South Guadalupe, the 500 block, and occasionally I see some pretty big trucks going down that road. I'm going, you're not even going to be able to make a right turn. You're just right turn. I'm going, where are you going?
You bring up a good point, and Brad, just so you know, and I don't want to speak for John and Tony because they're kind of the lead with our local neighbors there and Prospect and Palos Verdes, but 6 tons, I'm not looking to harass the landscaper or the guy doing tree trimming and just cutting through. But we've got bona fide tractor trailers going up and down Prospect and Palos Verdes, and that's just one of the obvious components of a lot of speeding that goes on along both those streets, especially along Palos Verdes. So with 6+ schools up along the Prospect corridor and all the stuff that goes on there, people bicycling and whatnot, it's just, traffic safety is just a real challenge.
Definitely. Speeding, especially late at night. I used to live at D in Prospect, so I'm familiar with it's like you don't have a double paned window at night. You're hearing everything go by. In the corner, I don't remember your name, sorry.
So, for the uneducated here, since this is a big discussion, are there specific bad actors on the tractor trailers? Where are they going? Like, is it just constantly, cause I just don't know who is it just Bonds and Smart and Final? Is it,
It's people
what are
going
these
up.
tractor trailers?
They're going up to Palos Verdes.
I live on Avenue B. I'm retired, I spend a lot of time in South Lake. I've never seen a tractor trailer outside of PCH.
A lot of them.
I believe they're there. I don't know who they are. I see Bonds and.
24/7. I get woken up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning every single morning.
Where are they going? That's my question.
They're usually through
Up the hill.
A lot of them are going up the hill.
Yeah, a lot of them are going up the hill.
Big box trucks. On March 25th, last year, Tony and I put up cameras at this corner. We got 135 trucks that came by. On March 25th, a year later, I captured 125 that went through the intersection on PB Boulevard Prospect. 125 tractor trailers and trucks.
And now what they're doing is they're running the stop sign. The box trucks and that are running the stop sign on Hubbard and PB Boulevard.
Oh, if they have a green light
Which is
on
a
that.
Doing 60, 55, easy.
Yesterday.
So imagine a kid crossing right there on
Went
the
down
bike.
PB Boulevard 50 miles an hour.
is, you know, so.
Wayne?
That's kind of a segue to separate issues. I was up in Sacramento last week and we were meeting with legislators talking about some of the bills that are passing for zoning. And you probably all heard of Scott Wiener, who's the guy that likes to build, overbuild things. Currently, California law allows you to, if you have a single family lot, you can put 3 units on it and the city can't even push back on it. But that's not the worst of it. So there's a bill that they actually have going on right now. It's called AB 647 by Gonzalez. I think it's down in Orange County.
Driving the fingers, yeah.
They want, it'll up that from 3 to 8 units.
Oh.
So if this passes, you can't stop it. So if it comes in front of us on the planning commission, our hands are tied. It's an ministerial approval. And it doesn't require parking either. Another bill that will come through, which, and again, this has to do with some cities that were trying to delay approvals on projects, but this new bill will force a city to approve any project that comes in front of them within 40 days. Now, that's pretty fast. You know, I'm in construction and that's hard to get done anyway. And so what had happened, like say Verdago can't review it, and that'll get approved without any ability to stop it as well too. So these are some things that are continuing to come out. Now, at the meeting I was at, I raised my hand and said, well, why don't we stop fighting these things playing whack-a-mole? Why don't we just do, like Already Heard Voices, which is the issue that Bill Brandt started, which is to make a state constitutional amendment that allows zoning to be retained at the local level. So municipalities can be in control of their own zoning again. So until we can get that through, we're gonna keep on having dumb bills like this coming through. And this one is scary because the bill process, they go through a committee, and they have 3 meetings, and then they go to a main General Assembly. It goes through three readings at that point, then it goes to the other house. This is almost out of the committee now, so if it gets approved, we can't stop this kind of stuff. And this is one of like maybe 10 more bills like it. So just encourage you guys, if you haven't heard of Already Heard Voices, go on the website, check it out. It's gonna be a big issue because making an amendment to the state constitutional is not an easy thing. It's gonna probably cost about $16 million to raise it. So if you wanna keep control of your zoning, that's the way we gotta keep this up, this kind of stuff, to help support that.
What was the bill you referenced there,
AB 647 is the new one. That I have a list of about 10 other ones we were talking with them about it, but unfortunately, a lot of our state assembly people who they're nervous because they get a lot of big money from you know, some of the hedge funds that want to invest in California, like Blackstone and a couple other ones. They put big bucks into it, and they sometimes will abstain and kind of hide, but they're getting money from them. So the only way we can pressure them is by let's take it out of their hands, make an amendment to the Constitution, and we're done.
Yeah, and I would say that our city council is united to oppose those kinds of bills. We want to keep our local control. We believe that we have a good mix of housing, maybe a wider mix of housing than 90%, 99% of the other cities in the state. The mayor is working with Almer Suchi's office, I think?
Supposedly him and Ben Allen.
Or Ben Allen's office.
They're running they haven't done anything. I asked them when I was up there, because I was talking to legislators saying, hey, our mayor is working on this language, will you support this? And they're all kind of like nervous about publicly saying anything.
And so it's a carrot versus stick idea. The idea is, if you can show you meet this kind of a housing mix, you've got a good housing mix, you've got low income, you've got single family, you've got multifamily, you've got all this stuff at a certain density rate, then yeah, you can be exempted from all these requirements. And that way you have the other cities around us that also are complaining about how come I have to make all this development. We can say, well, look, you want to be exempt from it, match what we're doing. So it's not that it's like, stop doing this or whatever. And that's a really nice way of doing it that I think we can get more support for, because legislators, they want to get reelected. So honestly, bills like the 8 houses or 8 units per location aren't the way to get reelected, in my opinion. But maybe up in his neighborhood, but not across the rest of the state. Having something that says, hey, look, here's the best practice. Do this best practice, and you'll be rewarded. That's a lot better than don't do this, and we're going to fine you, or we're going to, don't have your housing plan, you don't get this. And a lot of the bills that come out have penalties if you don't behave, whereas this is something that is a reward if you do something good.
Like positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
Because when you saw Hermosa have this big outrage about that 5-story. Bill, everyone's all freaking out, but luckily we got our housing element in and approved, which of course it didn't. We were telling them, better get this done or you're gonna have a problem.
And that was close too.
Yeah.
because it was approval of the housing element, not submission of it. And I was worried that Redondo's wasn't gonna be approved in time. And if it does, if your housing element is not approved, there's something called builder's remedy. And that's what Leo was trying to do at the AES by saying, your housing element isn't approved, therefore 2,700 units. You can't stop me. So it was really important to have that housing element approved. I think Santa Monica has a 20-story builder's remedy, something huge like that got put in. Hermosa's the 5-story one. That's actually done by a resident. That's not like some outside person saying, I wanna go do this. Like the resident basically, it's like, hey, I can build a 5-story, that way I can live there and I can rent out the rest of it and it's better for me. But, so it's not like, and it's not gonna destroy the neighborhood, one 5-story house. But if they'd had their housing element approved, wouldn't have happened.
And then that was at the Price location?
Yeah, 10-story, yeah, 10-story. So I don't understand how any city can't do that. But it shows you that they might be a little bit dysfunctional, like many cities are.
But isn't the city rezoning the properties that are within, like, I don't know, 300, 400, 500 feet on Pacific Coast Highway?
Well, we did the, you know, in Robert's other journal, plan advisory, we worked on an overlay, and then that overlay was submitted and reviewed, you know, we've been for 8 years of that, right, on the meeting, I think that was crazy.
Yeah.
And then it went through the planning commission for a couple of reiterations, and the city approved it, which was part of it, it was a piece of the whole housing element that was approved. When you're talking, it's an overlay which could potentially be changed in the future, it's not guaranteed, it just means that for future potential use, someone could come in and then try to, you know, if we want to tear it down, they could rebuild something like that. But there's still a lot of steps they gotta go through, it's not automatic. You know,
Yeah.
And also, you're in the coastal zone too, which has another layer of complexity.
Part of that, so.
Yeah, just because you're on the house, because you're on the west side of PCH, you probably have a lot more.
Right up in the corner,
Yeah.
PCH and
Oh, yeah, exactly, yeah, so, yeah, but that was a upzone in that whole last process, yeah, but again, it's like we have to tell HCD, the Housing and Community Development Department, that this is an area that we could expand, not
It
necessarily
doesn't, yeah,
will.
doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Yeah,
It has to
just means
be,
within 8 years.
the zoning has to have
Yeah,
enough potential there.
Right.
And you can't just say, hey, we're gonna put 1,000 units on this 20 square feet. Yeah, it has to be something that is a reasonable thing. So an example of one of those places that could actually happen, the Wells Fargo Bank at Torrance and PCH, the old LensCrafter building along PCH.
right.
And that's a single MU3 upzoned plot. So next to it isn't, but that one plot, which is an acre or something like that, could end up being like 15 units.
Right.
So that's like one little spot that was, you know, we said would have to create units. And again, the General Plan Advisory Committee lasted 5 years longer than it was supposed to last. And it was an advisory committee. And that was like the thing that frustrated me. It's like, we're gonna send it to planning, who's gonna send it to city council. So we just have to get it good. We don't have to be perfect. And COVID cost us about 2 years, but even so, it would have been nice if we could have just like knocked out the plan and said, look, we know planning is gonna go off and make changes. We know the city council is gonna go off and make changes. So here's the concept, and just go through. And if we had done that, we would have saved ourselves a lot of work, because while we were doing it, RENA's the Regional Housing Needs Assessment, that the number of houses the state forces us, they say, you have to zone for those houses. That number went up. So it's like if we had done it in 2 years, like we were supposed to, it would have been a lower number that we would have had in our plan, that we would have had to again redo, but at least we would have had an approved plan, and it wouldn't have been, what is the exact date that our plan got approved, and what is the exact date that this plan was filed for the AES site? You know, it was close.
The other thing, the community area, just as a heads up, in a couple months, in the planning commission, we're supposed to be reviewing a plan on, it's Pearl and PCH, with that Christmas tree lot area. They have a proposed 47-unit condo complex, downstairs, lower level, people will be mixed use, and then it'll actually be 3 stories high.
Is it the whole 53,000 square foot lot?
The
'Cause
whole
I see the
lot.
sign there.
Yeah, the whole lot, yeah, I'm told it's probably gonna come up in a couple months, but just as a heads up, I got a call on that, but, it will, supposedly it has parking, I don't know yet. Yeah.
As far as I know,
Supposedly,
we
but
still have.
it's 47 units, and the reason they're able to do that, because they did the builder's bond revenue, which is, they, 10% or less, I forgot the number is on this one, but they call them affordable units, which just means the other ones are priced higher, so it offset it. And, by doing that, they can go an extra story up, so this will be at least 3 stories from like 45 feet high.
Yeah, and affordable in Redondo Beach
Yeah.
is not what you think of. Affordable is, I believe, 80% of the median price or something like that. So, I don't know if you priced apartments or houses or anything like that lately, but 80% of that is still probably more money than most of you have ever paid, so. It doesn't mean you're, but Redondo does have Section 8, which is where it truly is for low-income people, where housing gets subsidized. We do have a large amount of Section 8 housing, which is what sets us apart and why we should have some of that relief from the state, because we do give more Section 8 housing than virtually everybody around us.
Just one last thing for me, you're talking about plans, when we met Brad with Tony and I, we talked about the issues we felt we had on our street, PV Boulevard, Prospect and all that, speeding, whatever, trucks. You said you're gonna meet with the Torrance people about the trucks and all. I think you can see there's a number of us concerned about the trucks for sure. What I'd like to see, and as we talk, we never hear that there's a plan, you know. They go out there, the police go out there, bless their heart, thank you for your service. They go out once every 3 months with the highway patrol. There's no consistency to it, so nothing gets resolved. So we'd like to see a plan. So when you meet with us, you come back and say, we met with Torrance, here's what we're doing, here's our plan. You know, next week we're doing this, next month we're doing that, here's what we're gonna do consistently to get to the end goal, which is to try to eliminate as best we can the truck traffic on PV Boulevard and Prospect. So plans are important, and I don't think I've seen a plan about any of this stuff.
Sure.
And I say that because nothing gets resolved. I mean, it's been a year ago, they had the meeting about the truck routes. They were supposed to go talk to Torrance then, and talk to the city staff. A year later, you're going back to talk to Torrance. Nothing's been resolved over the past year.
So it's up to me to get you that plan if the city doesn't.
Yeah. Thank you.
I take responsibility. Mark?
I think it's time for a plug for the harbor.
That's District 2.
I just want to encourage you all to come down and use your harbor. For those I haven't met, I'm Mark Hansen. I'm on your board of the Chamber of Commerce, also on the Government Relations Committee. I give them 2 harbor updates per month, so I live down at the harbor. It's obviously it's warming up. There are a lot of opportunities for you guys to use your harbor where you don't necessarily have to own a boat. You can go sailing and fishing and paddling. I can set you up to do all of those things down there. I'm pretty easy to find. Love to get you down there doing stuff. Obviously, spring's hit, so the summer sailing program for the kids is starting. You may see the banners around town. 7 years old, so think about your kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews. We're starting up in June. It's $945 for a 2-week program. I know that's the first thing everybody asks. Also, adult sailing, we don't stop 365 days a year, but we do crank it up more now, and then our Thursday night twilights have just started, and we're often looking for crew, okay? So you can come down on Thursday and be in a real sailboat race, plus a lot of weekend races. Again, you want to use your harbor, get a hold of me. I'd be happy to hook you up with some fun down there.
And how do they get a hold of you? What's your contact information, Mark?
Mark L. Hansen at AOL.
Joan?
Mark L. Hansen at AOL.com.
An old. And Joan has.
Okay, doing a plug, Joan Irvine. Now that I'm no longer running for mayor, I'm back focused on Keep the Esplanade Beautiful. We are a nonprofit. John was very instrumental, 12, 13 years ago when we first started. We do monthly cleanups on the Esplanade. We have first Saturday sweeps. And I'm really excited because in the last year we done much more of an outreach to other community groups. to come and join us. In fact, last week we had 5 scout troops and 1 cub pack come out, and it's really great when you're seeing the youngsters coming out because they're learning about volunteerism, they're learning about the environment, and so I'm just mentioning this so that if people have some groups that would like to kind of, we're calling it sponsors, kind of co-marketing this, so if you have it, you can reach me at joan@joanervineconsulting.com. And also what we're doing, we're already ramping up, we have our annual community mixer, October 22nd, at HT Grill. We've been doing that for several years, it's our fundraiser. We're also this year, we've already started talking to the high school about having a scholarship at the high school, which a number, like South Bay Parkland Conservancy already has one. So we're talking to them, we have somebody who's gonna take charge of that. And so that we'll be able to give a scholarship, but get the kids involved. So we're doing that. Then we also have somebody who came on board who's gonna be doing our marketing, advertising for us. And he came, he's a retired ad person, worked for Sashi and really high-end companies, and he's going to be mentoring a student from South High, since we're close to South High, and about using social media, so that we're really trying, and that will help that child's resume, going forward. So we're really trying to get out, as we get volunteers who will champion it, because as Brad was our vice president, he had to leave once he got elected, he had to resign. So we are looking for people. But so there's several programs that we're implementing right now, that we've been talking about for years, talking about things going slow, that we're implementing, and we'll get those done, and as we get those done, then we can be taking a look at other things. But, it's really great when you're out. It sounds weird, but you're out there picking up trash, which first of all helps the environment, helps the Elsinore keep beautiful. But also if you're out there doing this, you're meeting some of your neighbors. And also when you're picking up, people come up to you and they go, "Thank you very much." And you're like going, wow, when do you get immediate gratification for something that you're doing? So it's a really good feeling. And it's like 45 minutes or an hour once a month, and you can just drop in. If you have, as I said, if you have some groups who would like to join us, if you have some children or relatives that can bring kids into it, just please, let us know. So thank you for letting me do my pitch.
And if you're part of an organization or know somebody who's part of an organization that's gonna have an event like that, let me know and I'll put it in my newsletter. I talked to Jim at Parkland and I said, "Jim, let me know, because I know you're out there all the time."
Oh, quick question, just Ron, you talked about the recruitment, what's the city gonna do about fireworks this year? I know that you guys talked about it.
I believe it's on the agenda for this, and it was approved before I was on council. But as far as I know, we are doing fireworks this year.
Do they come from China though?
Uh-oh, then where's the question?
Don't they always come from the Indian reservations? That's. But yeah, I don't know where they're manufactured. Hopefully the costs don't balloon, but I think we're under contract. I think they signed the contract already.
That's what I thought. I didn't know if they were ready to do a barge or an onshore one or.
Oh.
I can answer.
There's a barge.
Yeah,
Mark?
it is barge, but the price of the barge was gonna go through
Oh,
the
yeah.
roof, and potentially threaten us even being able to do it. Staff worked really hard, they looked at all kinds of land-based options. Not one of the land-based options was practical to do, but then they started looking for other barge operators, they found one way cheaper, so we're on the barge at a reasonable price, we're good to go.
Yeah, and there was even a talk about buying a barge. It's like at the elevated price, what was it, 85,000 or something? It's like, hey, we could probably buy a barge and pay for itself in 3 years. At the lower price, it's not necessarily something that would make sense to buy. Yes, as far as I know, it's on the 4th, Seaside Lagoon and barge as usual. Riviera Village Association put money into it, King Harbor Association put money into it, to help offset some of these increased costs. A lot of the groups in the community gave money to say, let's keep the fireworks going. If costs keep ballooning and our budget keeps dropping, it's gonna be hard to say what we're gonna do in the future. Drone shows, they're still not cheap, and they're very limited in visibility.
Yeah, it didn't do anything.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, they'll go to the beach all along, up to Topaz or past that, or they'll be at their houses on their roofs. Drones don't help for that. I would say the biggest threat to the fireworks are environmental laws and coastal commission. Coastal already made a whole bunch of other issues and bunch of issues about how cleanup and things like that. And being a beach city, it's nice to do it at the beach as opposed to, a park or something like that here. But I don't know if we'll get forced inland. You've seen what happens with Torrance and a bunch of others. Santa Monica, I think, just canceled theirs. So, does that make ours more popular? Which means maybe we can figure out, I don't know, have the price go up at Seaside Lagoon to pay for it, or I don't know how we're gonna do that. I love fireworks. I like seeing them, but we'll have to see how that works financially, because we've got budgets coming up next year. I'm gonna close at least the video part of this. I've got the room for another little bit, but we'll need to clean up and get out of here by noon, because I think you can see there's parties everywhere. Somebody's coming in. But feel free to reach out through the city, through my card there, email, phone, whatever. I will do my best to be responsive. And if I'm not responsive, bug me, because I told you I'd be responsive.